Hey, what's up, guys? Shane here for Genesis Offroad. We're back again for another podcast where we're going to be answering your questions and giving you guys a more in-depth answers to the questions that you guys are sending in to us, so we can give you a more detailed explanation and try to address some misconceptions and some misunderstandings about dual battery systems. And we'll just talk about the industry as a overall and see what's going on out here. And back again with me, as always, Mr. Brad Chester is going to be bringing the questions to us. So, hey, Brad, how's it going?
Going pretty good, man.
So what we got on the agenda for today?
Yeah, so we get questions all the time. Probably one of our most common questions is, and we addressed this in a previous episode, I think one of our first episodes, but it'd be nice to come back to it because we get the question all the time of custom kits. So for the vehicles that we don't support, that we don't have a drop-in plug-and-play system for, what do they do? I know we recommend the Universal Power Hub. Can you tell us a little bit more about how they would fit that in their vehicle?
Yeah. So the Universal Power Hubs, let's talk about that a little bit. So you're right, for all the vehicles out there where we don't have a vehicle-specific kit that just drops in, which is a lot, right? All is not lost. There's still ways of doing it. So we have a universal version of the GEN3 Power Hub. So it's all the guts that's under the cover. It has all the same features as our JL, JK, Toyota kits, just stripped down to a mounting bracket with the center section. So that Power Hub doesn't have the extra brackets that go out and bolt down to the battery tray. It has 4 mounting holes on the ends of it. So the customer will need to find a spot to mount that somewhere. They can bolt it to the firewall or make their own custom bracket to hang it off their fender or mount it in the back over the wheel well, whatever the case may be. And it has 4 wires coming out of it, right? Just like our vehicle-specific kits. So one side of the Power Hub has power and ground that goes to the cranking battery, and the other side has wires that go to the accessory battery. Now, the actual piece that we call the Universal Power Hub is also used on our under-seat diesel Jeep kits. So that's the Power Hub in the kit that we sell for under the back seat of the Jeep Wrangler and the Gladiator. So that worked so well for us that we just decided to offer that as a standalone piece as a universal version. Also, just like the under-seat kit that has the adjustable battery brackets, we have those heavy-duty steel brackets that are adjustable in 2 directions to hold your battery down. We sell that separately. So if you need a way to securely mount your battery into your vehicle, maybe in the bed of your truck, maybe under the seat, you could put an extra battery in the storage compartment of your motorhome or your travel trailer, that sort of thing, under the seat of your boat, your pontoon. If you can find a spot where you can put your battery, you can use those adjustable battery brackets to bolt the battery down securely, right? And then mount the Power Hub next to it. You run the wires over to the accessory battery and then back up to the cranking battery. And that's literally all there is to it. There's nothing more to it than that. That's all the guts and the wiring and the complexity of hooking up a dual battery system is all done for you. You can hook 2 wires to one battery, 2 wires to the other battery, and you're done.
Now, how long are those wires? When you say they have I know the one side is longer so that it can reach the cranking battery under the engine. What are those links?
Yeah. So the expectation here is that we're anticipating that your accessory battery is probably not going to be right next to your cranking battery. Okay. So if you think about our diesel Jeep kits with the Power Hub and the battery under the back seat, right? We're assuming that you're going to be putting this stuff in your vehicle, whether it's an SUV or a boat or a motorhome or something, under the seat, in the rear cargo storage area, in the bed of a truck, something like that. Okay. So the wires that go to the accessory battery are fairly short. They're about 32 to 40 inches long. And all these specs are on our website. So it's designed for the Power Hub to be fairly close to the battery. Okay. If you picture under the back seat on the driver's side and is the Power Hub, and under the back seat of the passenger side is your battery. So it's about 32 inches or so to run over to that one. So you got some flexibility with, mounting that Power Hub close to the accessory battery. Then the wire that runs back up to the cranking battery, that one is 13 feet. So you got 13 feet of positive. So that's long enough, like we said, for under the seat of a normal size SUV like a Wrangler. But if you need custom sizes, you can call us up. Mike will, talk you through, measuring, and we can do custom wires for that too. We don't list that on the website just for simplicity's sake, because it can get real complicated real quick with trying to, offer every possible configuration. But if you need, 15 feet, 20 feet, whatever, we can make custom battery cables here. And then for the ground, for the cranking side, that cable is about 40 inches long. So that's long enough to find, that should be long enough to find a factory body ground close by and just tie into that. You don't make sure, just make sure you're using a good factory ground, not just, scratching some paint on the floorboards and bolting it down with a self-tapping screw. That's not a proper ground, So make sure you use a good ground like we do in our kits. But yeah, that's how we do it.
That's awesome. Have you seen anybody that has, that you thought was really cool and they found a great place for it?
Yeah, we've got all kind of stories. We had a guy just a few months ago put a spare battery, and I think he had his cranking battery and an auxiliary battery on either side of his trunk in a '69 Camaro,
Oh, nice.
and he just wanted it to have backup cranking power. He takes his old Camaro out to the car shows when it's nice weather out, and he just wants to be able to make sure he can always start the engine. So that's a great solution for
Makes
that.
sense. Yep.
And we've had gentlemen tell us they were putting it into their campers and trailers for running their CPAP machines, which I'm one of those guys. I had to use a CPAP for a while. So I get that. That's a really important thing when you're out camping. You need your little breathing face mask,
Huh.
and you don't want to be draining your cranking battery down all night long
Right.
to run your breathing machine.
Yeah, you don't have to make that choice of,
Yeah.
do I get to go home or do I have to, can I breathe in the night?
Do I breathe or do I crank the engine?
Not a choice you should have to make.
Yeah. So, I think the power systems in motorhomes and travel trailers, I think, is just archaic. We had a big Class C motorhome a while back, and it had a couple of Group 31 cranking batteries in it, but there's no fail over to a backup cranking battery or anything like that. There's nothing for accessories. It's kind of janky. So I ended up putting 2 more Group 31s in there and putting the dual battery system in there to have some of the things inside the cabin. I put in an extra inverter for running my laptop while we're driving down the road, because the AC in the motorhome wasn't active while you're just driving. I had to crank up the diesel generator in my motorhome in order to turn on the interior AC outlets. So I didn't necessarily want to run the generator. So I put a small power inverter, ran that off the dual battery system. We actually remodeled our RV, and we put in some new seats that were power reclining and had some USB charging ports next to the cup holder. So you could, we driving down the road all day long. You maybe want to charge your phone or your iPad or something. So I had those outlets running off the dual battery setup so that, even at night, it's not going to drain down my cranking battery, that kind of thing.
That's smart. And so what we've been talking about, up until now is the Gen 3 Power Hub, the universal version of that. I think the Omega version of that will be the juice box whenever it's released, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We've thought about maybe doing a universal Omega system that would have the charger and all the wiring that's normally under the lid of the Omega system integrated. That's basically what we're doing with the Grenadier system.
Okay.
So it's going to have one bracket that has the charger and all the wiring integrated into it, and just the leads that go to each battery. So super easy.
Right.
So we could translate that into a universal bracket that you can mount similar to the Gen 3 Power Hub. But I really think that, I think what we've seen over the years is you got some guys that are technical enough to figure out a place to mount that universal power hub, and that's great that you got the DIY guys. But a lot of the cases, what we see is if people have to think about how to get it installed, they just don't do it, And I hate that, I hate that they don't have the benefit of it because it's difficult to install, or because it's not a direct drop in. Everybody's now they're used to the way that we do things. It used to be really difficult back before we came along. You'd have to find some sort of an isolator and read the wiring schematic and figure out how to wire it all up and do it all yourself. So now we've made it so easy that people just don't even want to think about it anymore. And I get that. So I think that, you guys let us know, would you be interested in a universal version of the Omega system with the red arc charger and all the wiring and then just a couple of leads going over to each battery? If that's something that you guys are interested in, let us know. But I really think the juice box back here behind me is going to be the way that we're going to go, because that's got the alpha charger. It's got all the wiring, including a solar input. It's got a battery inside there. It's got a plug for running the wire back to your cranking battery, and that's it. So it's a complete all-in-one system. You got to find a place to put the extra battery anyway. Right. So you got to have a place to put the battery. You got to have a place to put the Omega system. The juice box has that all in one package that you can bolt down. So I think that's going to be the way to go. And I think that's going to be the way we're going to do, the Omega system for most vehicles going forward. Because we've been looking at some of the Toyotas, some of the new, the new Colorados, the new Rangers, all these new vehicles. They're just so cramped under the hood. And a lot of them aren't even putting a battery under the hood in the first place. They're putting the battery somewhere else, like the Grenadier has the cranking battery under the back seat. So I think that's just going to be the way we're going to have to adapt and do things going forward, is something like the juice box.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right, moving on. We had a guy ask the other day, he was trying to hook up his stereo amp to our system, and he was wondering how exactly did he do it. I know that you just installed a sound system in your Jeep, so figured you would have a great answer for this.
Yeah. We just got the Rockford Fosgate system in our JL just very recently. So
that's like a childhood dream of yours, right?
It is. Look, I'm an old guy now, but when I was a high school kid, I used to love to go to the we used to have the electronic stores, back before we had Best Buy and before Circuit City and all that. It was Cowboy Maloney. I don't know if you remember Cowboy Maloney. I don't know if they had that out in Oklahoma.
They didn't have that in Oklahoma. We had H&H Electronics.
Yeah. So down here in the South, it was Cowboy Maloney. You remember they had the big wall of all the head units. You can go around and pick your head unit, and you come over here and pick your tweeters, and you pick your subwoofer.
That's right.
With a little push button and mix and match and see which one you liked. Yeah, I used to go in there and just daydream about all the sound systems. So, the kid in me, always wanted, a sound system, but I could never afford it. I couldn't afford that stuff. I was broke as a joke. My car in high school was the car I drove in high school was a 64 Bel Air 4-door. It was about 67.5 feet long. Big old land barge boat. And I couldn't afford any of those nice speakers from Rockford Fosgate. That was a pipe dream for me back then. So I had the El Cheapo 8-inch sub. And you remember the MDF boxes with the carpet?
I had one in mind.
Yeah. Everybody did back in the 90s. Yeah, the subwoofer box.
Oh yeah.
But I got mine from the flea market for like $20 or something.
Nice.
So yeah, it was rattling the trunk, but it was not very good.
Yeah.
So
well, and that's what's impressive, about going down to Jeep Beach is it seems like that's a big market for this car audio.
Yeah. The Florida guys love some car audio. That's for sure.
All right. Well, going back to the question, now that we went on a rabbit trail, but how does he hook up his stereo amp system?
Yeah. So we always say that, your aftermarket electrical accessories, go to the bus bars, but it might be easier just to show you. What do you think about just taking a field trip? You want to go out there and we can take a look at our JL, and I'll show you what I did with. I kind of want to show it off a little bit.
Let's dip.
And I'll show you what Rockford Fosgate came up with for the Wrangler and the Gladiator. But I'll show you how to hook that up to the bus bars out here.
All right, let's go out there. Yep.
All right, let's go take a field trip. Okay, now we're under the hood of the JL. Here's the power hub and the bus bars that we were talking about. So we just lift up the cover here, and you can see the power and the ground bus bars for hooking up all the accessories. Right here is the large amplifier fuse, big heavy-duty fuse that comes with the Rockford Fosgate amplifier. So that just is routing right over here to one of the studs on the bus bar. So yeah, that's how you hook up an amplifier to the bus bars.
So I don't see a ground. Do they just hook it up like we do in the back?
Yeah, just like our underseat power hub, the ground just goes to a factory ground point under the driver's seat where where they mount the amplifier.
All right, cool. Well, that seems easy. I see the wires routed through the same grommet that we use, so it seems very simple.
Yeah, that's all there is to it. So just hook up your, like we always say, any of your aftermarket electrical accessories that you hook up to the bus bars will run from that second battery and won't drain down your cranking battery.
Yeah. Now refresh us. Why is it a good idea to run an amp like that off of our bus bars?
Well, by doing it this way, the amp will run from the second battery. So let's say you're hanging out with your friends with the engine off and you want to listen to the music. The amplifier is what's pulling all the power.
Right.
So that if you're hanging out with your buddies on the beach or in the parking lot or whatever, and you got the stereo blasting, the amplifier is what's pulling all the power. Okay. So that will run from this accessory battery, and you can run this battery all the way down until it's dead and the speaker's cut off.
Right.
But you want to keep in mind that your factory head unit, the radio on the dash, gets its power straight through the factory fuse box, which is hardwired right to the cranking battery. Okay. So all of your factory accessories, like your radio, your headlights, your stock 12-volt outlet inside, all that stuff runs from the cranking battery. But if you're just hanging out listening to the music, the head unit isn't going to drain the cranking battery nearly as fast as the amplifier will.
As I was going to ask, is which one do you think would die first?
Yeah, definitely the accessory battery.
Yeah.
But you can still crank the engine.
Yeah, that's good. No, that's awesome. Okay, so while we're here, why don't you just walk us through? I see some bigger wires, like maybe that's a winch. What else do you have hooked up there?
Yeah, I'll show you real quick. I've got my winch. I got the Warren winch on the front bumper. I've got my quick connect cables on the front bumper for plugging in our quick connect jumper cables. I've also got this is the leads coming from the Linsun Solar solar panels on the hood. I've got the power for the SDI e-click system. That's this little control box up here for the electronic suspension. And I've got one of our 12-volt outlets run to the back for powering our fridge off of a dedicated outlet. So that way the fridge will run from the second battery.
Okay, well, that covers a lot of questions because, like with the solar panels, we answered that a lot out at Overland of, how do I hook up my solar panels to your system? And it's just hook it straight up to the bus bar.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of ways you can do solar panels. Most people want to run solar panels so that they can keep their accessory battery charged up. Right. So picture, you're out at a campsite and you're running your heating blanket or your refrigerator or whatever. You want the solar to go into the accessory battery first. So as long as your solar panels can top this battery up and keep up with the demand, if it can bring it up, then the power hub will link the batteries together and the solar will flow over to the cranking battery as well.
Oh, that's cool.
So it'll go back this way as well. Now, some people tell us that they like to run solar panels so that they can make sure that cranking battery is always topped off. Okay, so maybe they don't have a dedicated 12-volt outlet inside. Maybe they're trying to run something off the stock circuitry or something like that. Or maybe they've been stranded and they don't ever want that to happen again. So you can have your solar panel charge controller go straight to the cranking battery post. Just hook it up straight here. Mm-hmm. That way all the solar energy goes into the cranking battery first. And again, if it can keep up with any demand and top it off, then the solar will flow over to the accessory battery as well.
Nice. All right. Well, my next question, our third question, was going to be about a winch. Yours is obviously hooked up to the bus bars, but we've had people ask, should I hook it up to the cranking battery or to the bus bars? What's the difference?
Yeah. So I think there's been a lot of debate about whether a winch should be going to your accessory battery or straight to a cranking battery. Well, let's talk about a couple scenarios, okay? Let's talk about a scenario of the guys that are going rock crawling out in Moab. Let's say you get the rear pumpkin stuck on a rock and you're turtled on a rock and you're just kind of hung up. Okay, you pull a winch line out to your buddy and you just need a little bit of a tug to slide off of that rock and then you're going again. That's not going to pull a whole lot of power from that winch, right? Just for a couple seconds. So in that case, it really doesn't matter. But down here in the South, a lot of people like to go trail riding and we got a lot of woods. We got a lot of rocks that tumble and roll underneath you. You get a little more jammed up You get a lot of mud riding down
A lot
here.
of mud riding.
A lot of people like to go mud riding. So if you're in a really hard, if you got a really hard winch pull and you're really stuck, if you're having a winch quite a ways to get out of a mud hole, winching for several minutes, that's going to pull a lot of power. So the harder that winch is pulling, the more amperage it's drawing. Okay, so with our system in here, with the winch connected to the bus bars, while the system has the batteries linked together, you're going to be spreading that demand across both batteries. Okay. So both batteries are going to help provide power to that winch. And of course, you got the engine running, right? So the engine is running, and the alternator is providing some power coming in to the cranking battery, and that's charging both of them. So the alternator is helping. But let's say you've got like a 160 amp alternator in here, and let's say, for example, it takes, 120 amps to run the whole vehicle. Okay, well, your alternator has about 40 amps left over that it can produce to help power anything else, right? So if the alternator is providing 40 amps to run the winch, but you got a hard pull that's drawing 250, 300, 400 amps, well, where's that excess power coming from? It's coming out of the batteries.
Right.
So with the batteries linked together in parallel, it's going to drain both of the batteries down together at the same time. Now, if this system sees that really hard winch pull draw those batteries down below 12.7, without a battery kit in here, if you just got one battery and you drain that one battery down to the point that the engine shuts off, well, now you're stuck in the mud and you got a dead battery and you're having a real bad day.
Yeah.
Right? So with this system, as the voltage drops, if the system sees that voltage drop to 12.7, it's going to separate it. The winch will continue running off of just this battery alone. Okay? So we're protecting that cranking battery from getting, drawn down to the point the engine cuts off.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the benefit. So you can still continue running the winch as long as this battery can provide the power. If you run the winch until this battery gets just drained down and the winch isn't moving anymore, okay, you're going to have to sit there and idle for 15 or 30 minutes, but at least your engine isn't dead.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Some people like to put the winch directly onto the cranking battery so that the alternator is always powering the winch. Okay, and that's the way you do it if you don't have a dual battery system in here, right? So some people want to go straight to here just so it's not passing through the power hub or the dual battery system. And I think that maybe there's an argument there in the past when you had older style dual battery systems that just couldn't handle as much amperage running through it. If you had an older solenoid system that maybe could only handle 85 amps continuous running through it all the time, or maybe even less, a 75 amp isolator. Well, if you're drawing 200, 300, 400 amps, you're going to end up burning up that solenoid, right? So I think in the older days, some people like to have the winch going straight to the cranking battery, and I think there was a case for that. But our system can handle 300 amps continuously running through it, 100% duty cycle. That's a lot of power.
That's a lot.
And it'll handle spikes of up to 1,000 amps for short durations. So it can handle more than that for short time periods. All that to say, in my opinion, I think the benefits of putting the winch directly onto the bus bars so that you've got the combined power of both batteries providing power to the winch and the protection for your cranking battery, I think that overrules. I think that would be more beneficial than any argument around the alternator providing power straight to the winch by hooking it up to the cranking battery. That's what I think.
Right. No, that makes sense. If you got a dual battery system in here, why not go ahead and utilize the power that it's going to provide and the protection from that cranking battery that's what it's designed to do.
Yep, that's exactly right.
All right, well, that's all the questions that we had, but let's go back to the sound system because I'd love to tell them exactly what comes with that kit.
Yeah, let's walk back here and I'll show you what comes with that Rockford Fosgate sound system.
That seems awesome.
That's pretty nice, right?
Yeah.
It sounds even better. I know you can't really get the full experience with the microphones and the cameras that we got in here. Man, that thing sounds awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely recommend it if you can get it.
Yeah, we love that Rockford Fosgate system. Check it out. So is that it for today?
That's it.
All right. Well, if you guys have questions, Brad, why don't you tell them how to get their questions answered here on the show?
Yeah, the best way is emailing us info@genesisoffroad.com or commenting down below. And then you give us a call. Mike will love to answer your question on the phone, and then he'll pass that question along to us so we can answer it here on the podcast.
Okay, sounds good. If you guys learned something, please do us a favor and share the show. That really helps us out. Give us a thumbs up if you like this kind of thing. Be sure to subscribe. See you the next one. Thanks, guys.